Hello guys, so on this side, back again with a new tutorial video. In this video, we are going to make the first project of the tutorial series, that is a Tic-Tac-Toe game. This is a very much beginner friendly game, so if anyone started mobile app development through Flutter through that course, they will get very much comfortable after doing that project. So without wasting any time, let's start the project. For making the project, I will personally prefer Visual Studio Code. So what I have to do, I search here Visual Studio Code and I click here in the new window. Now in the Visual Studio Code, you can make a new Flutter project. So what you have to do, you have to click on that settings, and after click on that settings, you have to click on that command palette. When you click on that, you have to write Flutter, and there is three options will become. You have to choose Flutter new project, and then you have to choose the application. Then they will tell you to make a new folder or choose a folder where you have to do that Flutter application. So in that here I make a new folder name as Tic-Tac-Toe, and after selecting that folder Tic-Tac-Toe, I open that, select a folder to create a project in, and I write the project name as Tic-Tac-Toe. Okay, so Tic-Tac-Toe. Okay, now if I enter here, that will take some bunch of seconds to create your first project in Flutter. Yes, I trust the author. And here you can see the comment is already run to create your project in Flutter. And here you can see your Flutter project is ready. After that, what do you have to do? I just close the terminal here so that I can show you the code. Okay, so that is already created. Now what we have to do, so after creating your first project in the Visual Studio Code, what you have to do, go to the Android folder, under that app folder, come that app level build.gradle. Here what you have to do, you have to change the compile SDK version to 33, minimum SDK version to 24, target SDK version to 33. So that will be target the latest app version, and the minimum app version is set here. Okay, now you can concise that project structure, and what we can do, we can run the app, that is the basic app Flutter created for us. Thank you, Flutter. Then we'll start to making our screen for the Tic-Tac-Toe game. So for running the project, what we have to do, we have to open the terminal. In the terminal, what we have to do, we have to write Flutter run, and we are running the project for the first time, so it will take very much huge time, because in the background Gradle download and Gradle build operation will be happen. So let's wait. So let's run the project. So guys, we've successfully started our project, and that's the project is started. That's the basic code of project that Flutter offers. Now before making the screen, let's first resize the screen with that code editor and that Visor screen so that we can easily go. Okay, so the screen is resized. I minimize the terminal for the better view. Now what we have to do, we have to go to the library main, and as usual we remove all of the code here. Now we have write the code from the scratch. From in the main.dart file, we import our favorite package material.dart. And after that, what we have to do, we have to write our entry point, that is void main, when where all of the necessary operation in Flutter is going on. Now after doing anything under that void main, what we have to do, we have to make a stateless widget under the that make the stateless widget as a name of entry root, and we have to call that entry root from the run app. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to do that entry root and make it constant. Okay, now let's come back here. Here what we have to write, we have to write here the material app, that is the empty root of our project, material app. And in that material app, what we have to do, we have to first write debug show check mode banner, that should be false. Then we have to mention a theme, and we can give a theme data, but now we are not maintaining any theme of dark and light, so we don't have to think about it. After that, what we have to do, we have to give the title of the app, that is Tic-Tac-Toe Game, or we can give it Tic-Tac-Toe, that will be better. Then we have to give the home. For home, we have to make a new screen. So what do I have to do? Under that library folder, I make a new file name as mainscreen.dart. Okay, and under that mainscreen.dart, we have to import our material.dart package. and what we have to do, we have to make it a stateful widget and give the name as main screen, and we have to call that main screen from the main dot home here. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to make it constant, but making before it constant we have to import that main screen here. So we have to write import and here main screen dot. Okay, so the file is linked up. And one more thing, as of now this is our first project in our tutorial series. We are not doing any kind of testing, so we can delete that test folder, otherwise that will be bothering us. So okay, now we come here in the main screen. Before making a hot reload to see the effect, let us make a decent screen so that it will be showing clearly. So I write here scaffold, and here I have to write background color and having the color of colors.white. In the body there will be a container that is covering the whole screen, so I giving the media that will be covering the device with that command, and I giving a height of that so that it will be covered totally the height of the device. So okay, now before making a hot reload, we can beautify our status bar and navigation bar, because it is looking very much bad and very much ordinary. So what we can do, we can define the inState method here, that is actually act like a constructor for any widget screen. So here we can call a method name as initialize, and under that initialize method that we are going to define just upper side of the inState. So initialize, and here we have to make the configuration for the status and navigation bar. For making the designing of status and navigation bar, we have to must import a package name as services dot. Okay, so here we change the color and icon brightness of status and navigation bar. For that we have to write system from dot set system UI overlay style, and what we have to write here, we have to write here system UI overlay style, and here we have to do all of the necessary things. So what we have to do here, we have to write system navigation bar color, that the color will be white, and we have to write system navigation bar icon brightness, so that will be the enumerator of brightness dot dark. I will tell you what is enumerator, so don't worry, even in this project we will make our custom enumerator, so we will so I will tell you of that. So if you, in case you don't know, stay patient, I will explain it soon. By the way, now we have to give the status bar brightness, so we give the brightness of color transparent, sorry, that will be status bar sorry, my mistake, status bar icon brightness, so that will be brightness dot dark, and status bar color, so that will be transparent, so that the background color of the screen will be visible. Okay, so if I make a code reformat and I make it a constant, so that the warning will be gone here. Now I think it is very much good to make a hot restart, because we are also changing the root of the project. So I make a hot restart here. As you can see, after the hot restart, the status and navigation bar also looking very much cool, and the basics container that is taking the height and width of the whole screen. So here we have what we have to do in Tic-Tac-Toe. As you know, there is 9 blocks, so we want to make that 9 blocks at taking a minimum or effective height of the screen. So what I can do, and in the rest of the place we have to show some of the information, just like player 1 having the sign of cross and player 2 having the sign of circle. So don't worry, I will tell you how to do that. So what I should do here, I taking a padding from both sides of the screen, so that it will be looking very much detailed. So I taking a padding from horizontal, it is 10, and in from the vertical it is 5, and I make a child here, and in the child I make a column. So in that column children, what we have to do, we are writing a container having taking the width of the device. And we have to do one more thing, we have to write media query dot of context dot size dot height, but we will not take the whole screen height, we will take the screen height of around 50%. So it is not right the 50%, but very much close to 50%. So let's see with giving a color how much height we are occupying. So I give the color of amber. Let's make a hot reload to see how many of the height we are occupying. We are occupying that kind of height, and I think that is decent. But what we have to do, that is actually coming under the status bar. Instead of giving the safe area, what we have to do, we have to write constant size boxed and having the height of 30 from the top. So after that, if we hot reload here, as you can see, it is coming in the significant pace, and the section of the height is looking very much cool. So what we have to do now, we have to make a grid view, because in the tic-tac-toe, you know, there is a row and column present of 3 3, so that is present in the grid view. I have to make a grid view of it, so I write grid view, sorry, my bad, grid view dot builder, and here what we have to do, so here I have to write silver grid delegate with fixed cross axis count, and here I have to specify the cross axis count. In the tic-tac-toe game, you see that there is 3 row and 3 columns, so I give the cross axis count of 3, and we have to give the main axis not x10 but the spacing of 10 and cross axis spacing of 10, and we have to specify that there should be a 9 items is present, because in the tic-tac-toe 3 cross 3 9 block is present. So here I have to give the item builder. So in the item builder, there is a context will be written and the index will be written. Context, that return concept is not required as of now, but the index is required. Now here what I do, I instead of writing code in the same method under that build method, what we have to do, I make a separate method where we build the similar kind of widget. So in that case, what we have to do, I have to write game block, and we have to take in the index. This is necessary. Now we have to make that method game block. So I click on that bulb, click on that, so so that I can create a new method. That sign is very much helpful to making the block or any other widget very much fast, so please utilize it sincerely. Now here we can write container. We don't have to specify the width and height, because it is in the grid view, all the elements under that grid view having the similar kind of width and height, so you don't care about width and height. That will be maintained by the grid view. Okay, so here in the container, I write just colors of light blue accent, so that I can check how much it is looking. Okay, so it is looking in that way. I know that is the color is not matching because the yellow color is behind that, so I can remove that so that it will be looking good. And now make a reformat and make a hot reload to see here. Okay, so here what I can do, I make a alignment. So alignment dot center, and here I give a child and give the child of text, and converting that index of that particular block to string to show in a text widget. And what I done here, under that style, I make a text style here, having the font size I giving here as 40, and I give the color of the font here, so that the color is white, and we give the font weight. So I give the font weight as bold, so that the text style will be bold. So I make it constant so that it will be look better, and I make a hot reload here, so see the effect, and the effect is in front of you. Okay, now what the plan is that when we click on any of the widget, that the widget will be getting flipped horizontally. Okay, so that when we click a widget, just like player 1 click a widget, the widget will be flipped and the cross will be so there. When the player 2 click on a available widget, that the widget will be flipped horizontally and the circle will be so there. We have to do that. So for that flip of that things purpose, what we have to do, we have to install that package available in the pub.dev. So that is, the name is flipcut. So come to the installing part and just copy that. I will tell you how that package will be helpful. So we just copy that dependencies, and what we have to do, come back to the prospect.yml of our projects, comes under the dependencies section. Under the dependencies section, just paste the package here. Now we have to load many more of the assets in our project, so we have to close the project, and after installing the dependencies and loading the assets, what we have to do, we have to restart the project. So we can cancel that Flutter pubget, and we also can cancel that here. Okay, so yes, I terminate the project, After that, what we have to do, so as I said before, player 1 will be pointing to the cross sign and player 2 will be pointing to the circle sign. So we have to include that asset in our folder as well. So for that I make a folder name as asset. Under that images of that asset folder there is a circle and cross. I have ready it. So in case you want, you can download from the internet, but if you want that transparent images and want it very much fastly, the link in the description for download that asset, you can check it out. And don't forget to like this video. So what I have to do, I have to take that asset, I copy the folder, and what we have to do, we have to open that folder in the Explorer, and after opening the project in the Explorer, I paste it here in the root of the project. Okay, so that's all the project file. It is looking very much cool. And now what we have to do, I minimize it here, and as you can see the asset is showing here. But one thing more, we have to load the asset in our project, so that we have to include it in the prospect.yaml asset section. So what I have to done, as I said you in one of the previous video, how to load image or fonts in your app. So I just uncomment it, and what I have to write to include all of the images through a single line, I have to write assets/images. So when I write here, all the images under that asset images folder, that will be loaded in our project. So after that, what we have to do, as we install the package and the assets, so what we have to do, we have to run the Flutter pub-get. It will take a bit of time to install the package and load all of that. So in between time, what we have to do, we can do a thing that let's understand how that Flipkart is work. So Flipkart is helping you to provide the facility of flipping in horizontally and vertically, so that will be helpful in case of our project. Now here you can see that that's the code is written here, and also there is a key is present here. We will don't memorize any of the things, just you can copy the code from the documentation and that will be totally fine. So what we have to do, after installing all of the dependencies, what we can do, we can close that prospect.yaml, and here from the terminal we can run the project, so that we can proceed with that package Flipkart and also with the images that we loaded. So let's run the project and let's wait to do the further things. So guys, we already run our project from after terminating that with the flutter run command. Now what we have to do, we go to the documentation here at first, and here saying that we can use that widget, so that will be help us to flip the widget. But just copy that thing, and before pasting here, just import that important package that we just installed, that is Flipkart. So that's the package, and what we have to do, under that at the container, just replace that code with a copy from the documentation. Don't get confused with that error, because the code is somewhat old. That's why the raised button is giving error, because in the old Flutter version there is a widget name as raised button, but in the Flutter latest version that we are using, Flutter 3.7.6, there is no widget name as raised button. So instead of that, there is a widget name as elevated button. And what we have to do, we can do one more thing here. Instead of that text toggle, we can write here container. We give the alignment of center, and instead of the container, as we are only using that parameter alignment, we can use that align widget as well, and giving the child of align widget here. And what we have to do, we have to write text, and we have to show the respective text here. So instead of index.toString, I prefer index plus 1.toString, because when we do the calculation of the winner or of the block, we will consider the first block as 1, not 0. But in the coding purpose, the index is coming from starting from 0, but when we calculate all the things, we will consider it as a 1 for the easy understanding purpose. Now we have to give a significant style of the text as well. What we have to do, we have to define the style under that text widget. So I write here text style, and I give the font size as 35, that will be decent, and give a font weight of bold, so that it will be looking good, and having the color of colors.white, so that it will be looking very much good and very much clearly visible on the top of the block. Okay, now we can't hot reload that. We can remove that container, that is not necessary at that point of time. So remove unnecessary container. Thank you for giving me suggestion. And just ignore the back parameter as of now, we will do it later. But before that, we have to declare some key. As you can see in the documentation, there is unique key for every of the flip card. So what we have to do, I just copy the things here. We can't write in that way because in our code there is many more of the block is present. So we have to define unique key for each of that 9 blocks. So what I can do, I just write list dynamic, and here I write block keys, and we generate a list of that things we copied from the documentation. So that is how can we do that? We write list.generate, and we have to first give the length. So there is 9 blocks, I give the length of 9, and here that will be written the index. And what we have to do here, we have to just paste it here, that we just copied from the documentation. So what that will be done, that will that the lines will be generate a list of 9 elements, every element having the unique key of that flip card state. Okay, so that's why we can generate the keys. And how can we assign each of the unique key to the each of the block? Very much easy. What we have to do, we have to come that flip card key section, giving the block keys and giving the specify index, so that if the index is 0, that will be assigned to the first block. If the index is 1, that will be assigned to the second block. So in that way, every block will be get the unique keys. So what we have to do, we have to just copy that thing and we have to paste it here. Now what we can do, we make a hot reload and let's see if it is taking effect or not. As you can see, when we hot reload it, it is showing a decent screen. When we click any of the block, it is showing the back. So in the back, we that is written back, so that's why it is showing here. Instead of that, what we can do, we make some of the decoration so that you can understand it better. So I give a border radius here and give the border radius as circular, and having a small border bend here so that it will be looking good. Having the color of it, and I give the color as light blue accent. And if I make a hot reload here, the block is showing. So if I click on any other block, it is also getting flipped and the back is showing. That the black alignment is not right, so that it will be bothering us. So I make the alignment is centered, so the black is now showing at the center of the block. If I click any new button, any new block, that is showing the back widget in that way. Okay, so what we have to do, as the state is changed, there is no way to get back to the initial stage instead of the hot restart. What we have to do, we have to make a reset button. When we click on the reset button, all the block will be come to the initial state. Okay, so what we have to do, after that container, I want to make a significant height of it, so around not 30 but 20, that will be fair enough. And in the center of the screen, I make a reset button. So how can we make a reset button? We make a elevated button here, and when we click on the elevated button, what should be done, that will be managed by the onPress method. And in the child, we have to write text, and we have to write here reset, and we have to write here style and give it a stick style, and having the font size of 18, so looking good, and having the color of colors.white, so that it will be visible clearly. Now if I want to make a hot reload here, the reset button is showing here, it's the reset button. We will make many more UI customization and UI decoration in the further videos, so don't worry, I just showing you as the beginner project, so that you will be get comfortable with many more widget and many more functionality and operations. Okay, so what should be done here, when that reset button is clicked, instead of writing the method action when that will be clicked, I make a separate method so that the things will be separated from that column. So on reset, I give the method name here, I just put the cursor here, click on that bulb, click on that create method on reset, and here when we click on reset, what should be happen, all of the block keys will be getting assigned with the new value, so that old value will be removed. So what I have to do, I have to paste it here. So what have to done, when we click on that button, all of the key will be generated for new and old key will be get removed. And after that, to update the widget, we use set state in the stateful widget. So set state, let's see if it is working or not, performing hot reload. And when we click on here, as you can see all of that coming to the initial state. So on reset method is also helpful for us. Okay, now what we have to do, when we click on a widget, it will be get flipped and show the cross sign. When player 2 clicked on a available block, that will be getting flipped horizontally, and that will be show a circle image that we include here, circle image and circle PNG and cross PNG. Okay, circle and cross. So what we have to do, we can make a method here. So we can make a method. Instead of the method, I want to familiar with you some setter and getter. So in that way we can insert the method, but if we write just like I write here, get cross image. Okay, so in that way we can write the method. Instead of writing a method, we can define the getter as well, so that we don't have to call with that function caller. We just have to write the name and that will be getting called. There is many more application and many more advantage of setter and getter over methods that we will come later in the further videos of the series, so that you don't have to miss that series further videos. Okay, so for getting the cross image, what we have to write, we write here in that way, having the padding, and we have to give the padding parameter, and having the padding from all of the side of 10, and we give here as a child, and I want to load the asset image. And what the asset image, that the asset image is the cross image, so it is present in that path. So I write here assets slash images slash cross.png. okay, in the similar way we make another getter there for the get circle image, and instead of the cross I have to write here circle. As you can see in the back side of every block there is a that static container is showing, but in the real scenario what happened, when that will be getting flipped, the content will be dynamic. Just like sometimes there will be a cross come, sometimes there will be a circle come based upon the player. Okay, so what we have to do here, we first thing first, we have to define a custom data type in Flutter for the player, that is player 1 and player 2. So what we have to do, we come to the library folder and not making a new folder but making a new file named as config.dart. Under that config.dart I make a enumerator name as player, and under that player I make a two value, that is player 1 and player 2. So what is that enum? Enum means enumerator. Through that enum keyword you can make your custom data type in Flutter and you can give the value. So the player is a custom data type that is made by us, and there is two and the data type has two value, player 1 and player 2. So just like you can compare it with that brightness. So bright, if you go here in the brightness, you can see brightness is a enumerator. In the same way we declare the enumerator player, and brightness having the two value dark and light, and in the same way we in the, our enumerator player having the two value player 1 and player 2. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to import that config in that main screen.dart. So what we have to done, we have to put that file config.dart. Now what we have to do, just like first time there will be a chance of player 1 and in the next time there will be a chance of player 2. So how can a user will be understand that which time whose chance is coming? So for that what I have to do, under the scaffold I make a app bar here and I write a app bar here, and what I have to do, I write here the elevation of 0 and I give the title of that app bar as which player is now having the chance to play. So for that what we have to do, we have to make a variable here name as player, and we have to write that variable name as current player. We are making a variable that having the data type of player that we define with the enum, and by default the chance will be for the first player. Okay, so player dot player 1, so player 1. Okay, text in the text box of title of app bar. So if the current player is player dot player 1, we have to write first player, and if it is not player 1, that means it is second player. Okay, that should be so in the app bar. And if I make a hot reload, I think the app bar will be visible. as we can see, the first player here is showing. So when a player click of any block, the chance will be forward to the second player and the vice versa. Okay, so what we have to done, when we click on a block, so instead of that, what we have to do, we have to make a separate method on input, and we have to pass that index here that we are taking from that method, and click on that bulb, make a method here, and what we have to do, we have to give it here. Okay, but what we have to do, before turning that, we have to make some of the conditions. So if current player is player dot player 1, then the next current player is the player 2, right? So we have to write player dot player 2. If that is not true, then what we have to do, vice versa. Okay, and one more thing here, as we change the current player of after giving the input of in that block, we have to update the widget. For updating the widget in the stateful widget, as you know, you are guessing right, we are using systate. Okay, and one thing we can do here, if the current player is player 1, before changing it to the current player dot player 2, we can assign cross in the backside of that particular input block. So for that, what we have to do, we have to come to the top of that file, and before writing that initialized method, what we have to do, we have to declare a map of integer and widget. Okay, and here we have to block input, and under that block input, what we have to do, we have to put the key and value of integer and widget. I will tell you. So what we are basically trying to do here, by default, as you know, the backside of every of the input is not static. Now here the code is static, but where the code, yeah, so the code is static, but that should be dynamic based upon the player input, just like cross and circle. But by default, the backside should be empty. So for that empty, I make a empty center widget, so that it will be assigned to the every backside of the block by default. So how can we assign that particular index related block to the backside of every block? So it is very much easy. We have to select that block input, and what we have to do, we have to come to the here in the back, and we have to just copy it, write the block input, and we have to write index +1, and it is giving the error because what happens, sometimes the block input is a map. Okay, so maybe that happened, that maybe that there is a possibility the key we are giving here is not present in that map. So what we have to do, if there is the key value is not present, we have to alternatively show a center widget. So what is we basically doing here, if the key of not present in that block input map, so there will be chance of null that will be not accepted by the back parameter of Flipkart. So if there is any null coming, that will be returning center, and that to question mark will be doing the same kind of operation. For the null safety in the Flutter, I will make a video on null safety in that series soon. Make sure you don't miss the video in case you have confusion in null safety in Flutter. Okay, so what we have to do, after assigning that, let's come back here. So in the on input method, if the current player is player 1, so for the player 1, what is the sign of that input? That is cross. So what we have to do, we can do one thing here, we can take the copy from here, we have to assign the cross image. That's the cross image, get cross image we define. But as I said, this is not a method, it is a getter, so we don't have to give that calling statement. So how can we write the getter? It is very much easy. So get get cross image, and that's it. You don't have to write in that way, because the get cross is a getter, not a method. So the expression can't evaluate the function because it's a getter, not a method. So you have to just write the getter name, okay, and no other things. In the similar way, if the current player is not the player 1, that means the current player is the player 2. So we have to give the circle image instead of the cross image. Okay, so after giving the cross and circle image respectively, if the current player is player 1, it will be changed to the player 2, and if the current player is not the player 1, that means the current player is player 2, so it will be getting changed to the player 1. Okay, so make a hot reload and let's see if it is working or not. I click on here. As you can see, it is showing cross, and when we click here, it is showing circle. There is a missing that there is no any background color. That my mistake, sorry for that. What we do done here, so I make a container and giving a color of colors dot I select that color, colors dot blue 400. So colors dot blue, and giving that as a 400. And what we have to done here what we have to do here, instead of the padding we make it container, because container has already a parameter of padding, and here we have to give the color of that specific we defined here as well. And we make a hot reload. So if I click here, as you can see, it is showing in that way, but there is a bad thing that the sign of that color in that blue, it is not showing good. So what we can do, we can give here the color of the image, that will be colors dot white. That will be, I think, good. And after copying that parameter color, I also paste it here, so that both cross and the circle will be having the color of white. So if when I click a new block, as you can see, it is showing cross and circle, okay, in a white color. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to reset this as well. So in the on reset method, we just reset the block keys, but we have to reset that block input as well. I make it final here. So what we have to do here, so we write here block input dot clear. That will be clear all of the block input that we assigned here. So there is no problem after being clear, because if there is any key is not present, so instead of the null, that will be handled by the center, because we already maintain the null safety here. And what should be here, so in the block input we are assigning cross image and circle image depending upon the current player. Okay, so on reset method, I think that will be working fine. And I make a hot reload before clicking on the auto reset, and after hot reload, if I click on the reset, that will be coming to the initial state, so that you can play with. But the game is not completed yet, because we have to decide the winner. So for that we have to write the logic as well. So for that, what we have to do here, after that player, we can define a boolean value is winner predicted, and giving by default a value of false, because when our game started, no winner will be predicted there. So instead of the predicted, we can give it is winner found. That will be very much reliable. And what we have to do here, in the on input method, if the is winner found is found is winner found is true, then we have to we don't give the permission to proceed further, because if the winner is found and if there is any block available after found that winner, according to the rules of game rule of tic-tac-toe, we don't have to proceed further. That's why I if the winner is found, I make it return. So we have to do one more thing in the on reset method. In the here is winner found, I make it as a false, and that will be true. I will show you very much soon. Okay, now what we have to do for the input of the player, that player 1 and player 2 will be click on that block, that block, that block. So we have to store that player input, so that we can evaluate that player input. So for that, what we have to do, come here at the top, just upper side of the initialize method. I want to make a map of player enumerator that we make, and list of int, and we have to give player input. And here what we have to write, the key is player enumerator type. So what we have to write, player dot player 1 and list of int. The integer actually denoting the index of the block that we mention here 1 2 3 4 5 6, not in the index starting from 0, that the index is starting from 1 with +1 we defined here. So here the player 1 index will be shown there, and in the similar way there will be show the index of the player 2. And what we have to do, we have to copy just here, and in the on reset method we have to paste it here before the set state, because when we reset it that player input should be getting cleared. Okay, so the player input is showing here, and after that we have to getting ready with the matching pattern that is responsible for deciding the winner. So if I reset here before I make a hot reload, and if I reset here, so when that will be getting winner, if that is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 or 1 4 7 or 2 5 8 or 3 6 9 or 1 5 9 or 3 5 7, that is 8 patterns of similar sign. If that will be came, that will be responsible for deciding the winner. So we have to store that pattern as well. For storing that pattern I make a list of int and matching pattern. What we have to do here, so there will be total of 8 pattern of same sign that will be responsible for deciding the winner. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So what should be the pattern? So the pattern should be 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 1 4 7 2 5 8 3 6 9 1 5 9 3 5 7. Okay, so that should be the matching pattern, and that value should be final because the value is not getting changed. So what we have to do in the on input method, for that player input we have to delete with. So where the player input method, that's the player input method. I copy the variable name so that there will be no type of the variable. So here under that, if the current player is the player 1, and what we have to write, player input player dot player 1, and that should be append or add that the index where the cross sign is getting assigned, and it is showing the error of the same reason, because if the key is not present there, or that key will be can remove in the runtime automatically. So we have to make the null safety here. So I make a constant mark here, and the null is gone, because if there is null that will be not proceed further. So if there is not null, the add operation of that particular value will be happening. Okay, so in the similar way what we have to do, we have to write it from here. So I make it player 2. And one more thing we have to decide, maybe there is a possibility that if there is one input is already given, the second player also trying to click on here, that will be not getting the input in there, but the value will be calculated here. So what we have to do, we have to write block input index +1 if null, if not null, and block input index +1 not equals to constant center, that will be returned. So what that basically meaning, so if the block input particular key value is not null, and that block the input particular key value is not centered, so that means in that particular key of that block input map, the value is not null and also not centered. So it is defining that there is a specific input is already given there, so we don't have to proceed it further. So I make a hot reload here, and if I click on here, it is working, but it is not showing here. So if I can test here, how can we test here? I write here a debugging statement coming process. So I can increase the size of the terminal. If I click on a already taking input widget, so you can see that the debugging statement or coming process is not appearing, but when I click on a empty block where the input is not given yet, that's the coming process is coming, okay. So I can decrease the size of the widget, and I can remove that because I want to just show you that it is working. So what we have to done, after that the input getting stored here in the player input, after every of the toggle card making after the set state, we have to detect winner if there is present, because after every of the single input of any player there is a possibility that winner will be already detected. So detect winner, and what we have to do after the set state, I just want to do a silly thing. If current player is player dot player 1, so that will be player dot player 2, else player dot player 1. Just like what is happening, if the current player is player 1, we are changing it to the player 2, and if it is not, then we are changing to the player 1. So what happening, when we detect the winner, we have to check if the last input giver player sign having the match of any of the matching pattern. So what I done, as it is getting changed when we coming that at that 175 line, so what we have to done, we have to done the reverse thing to getting the latest player of it. Hope you understand this. Now for that current player, how can we how can we decide if it is the current player is getting winner or not? It is very much easy. So what we have to write here, so I have to write here player input, and here I have to write current player, and maybe there is a possibility that current player key is giving a null or the value is not present, so we make the null safety here. Here what we have to do, we have to take it as a list of integer, because the value that here is list of integer, so we also taking that as a list of integer, okay. Now what we have to do, we have to take that value current player, all current player inputs, okay. So current player inputs. Now what we have to do, current player inputs, actually as you can see it is a list of integer. We have to check if the player input block number index is matching with that matching any of the matching pattern, then we have to decide that as a winner. So what we should done, just like I give you an example here, just like player giving the input of 1 1 4 5 9, just like that's the pattern. So if you see, if you compare any of the number with any of the pattern, it will not match, because if you make the combination of 3, that the 3 combination will not getting match, okay. So but if I make it just like 8 and 7, so as you can see that pattern we can be matched with the 7 8 9, just like 7 8 9 present in that player 1 input value list, and that similar pattern is present here. So we have to check any of the matching pattern in a list values is getting present in the player input or not. So that's our main goal to decide the winner. If that the matching pattern is found, so that's declare the winner, otherwise just do as it is. So what we can do here, we have to convert that current player input list to the set method. So set dot off, and here we have to write current player, okay. Current player, not the current player but the current player input. So here I give under the set data, and what I have to do, I here write matching pattern dot map. So pattern, and here I write pattern dot not the pattern but set data dot contains all pattern, okay, and convert it to the list. So what it is doing, so what we are doing, we are going through every of the inner pattern, we are iterating through it, and we are checking here the pattern is representing every of the inner matching pattern that we declared in there in the list. So we are checking, that's the set data is the user input that we converted to the set. So if the user input containing all of the elements of a particular pattern, that will be returned true. That means we get the winner. Okay, and we are converting to the list because dot map actually return the iterable, so we are converting to the list. So we take the result collection. So if the result collection dot contains true, if it is contains true, what happened? First thing first, we have to make is winner found true. What we have to write here, we can show a widget here, so we can make a pop-up that which player is the winner, but before that we make a set state here so that winner found true is getting updated in the widget. So custom widget, so custom dialog. So I make a basic dialog here. So how can you make a pop-up dialog in Flutter? You have to define show dialog. Under that show dialog, in the builder method, what we have to do, it will be return a context, so we not need that context at that point of time. So I just make it underscore, and I want to define a alert dialog. So that alert dialog is very much useful under that show dialog to show a particular message, because that will be provided as a title, content and more. So we are just taking the title as of now, the other thing is not required. So I take the title and I paste the title here. But how I can paste the title here? I have to write the center of the child having the text, and I give a title here. Okay, so here I give the semicolon, and we have to call that show custom dialog, and what we have to write, final result. So if current player, that is coming as a parameter, is player dot player 1, then one value, else one value. So if the player 1 is the current player, then we have to write first player, and then otherwise we have to write second player. Okay, and we have to write is the winner. Okay, so what happened, that the coming value, if the result getting true, so if the current player is the player 1, so the showing the first player, else otherwise that will be considered as a second player and is the winner, and that we have to pass from that final result. I make a typo, I make a lot of typos, sorry for that guys. And we should check one more thing, there is a possibility chance that the game should be draw, so that no one is the winner. So how can we predict that? For that we can make another list of widgets. So list of int and player block input, so that's a empty list. We have to do one more thing here. So on the on reset method, I write here player block input dot clear, because that will be clear when we make the reset. So what we should be done here, in the player block input, we have to maintain that widget for tracking of if the game is draw or not. So whenever there is a input, what we should do, we have to write player block input index plus 1. Okay, so if the result contains is true, condition not satisfied, so that there will be all the false element. If the all false element, what the variable name, I also forget, I copy the variable name from here, and what we come back here, and what we have to do, if the result collection having no true value and player block input having the length of 9, that means all the block getting the input and no one even is the winner. So for that, what we have to show in the custom dialog, game is draw. Now we make a hot restart to see if the game and the winning status is working fine or not. Let's play the game. So I first want to win the first player. In the second time I want to win the second player, and in the third time I want to make a draw. For that, so that I can show you three things that we are implemented here. Okay, so just like I want to first want to win the first player, so the first player is brought, so I want to first want to win the cross. So let's see. I think there is some problem happening here. Okay, I think we make a mistake. I think that's the condition is not right enough. So what we can do, instead of clear all of that block input under that reset, I can make here with that new value, so that there will be no contradiction of null or the value is not getting. So what we have to do, in the on reset method I give block input in that way, so that it will be getting new key and value, and old value will be getting removed. Okay, so what we have to check, if the player input of the current player contains index +1, or not the current player but the opposite player. So okay, so how can we check the opposite player? So opposite player, so if current player is player dot player 1, that will be the opposite player will be player dot player 2, else if the opposite vice versa. Okay, so that the exclamatory sign is for checking the null safety. So just like if that particular key under that map is not of that value of that key is not found, there will be null. So if that we are ensuring that the null can't become here. Okay, so if the null will become, there will be give error in that line or in that line as well. So what condition we are changed, if the current player input result that is present under the player input that list, if contains that current index, and in the opposite player that we getting from that condition, if that player input and that list is in the player input, if that opposite player list contains that current index, we should not give the permission to forward, because the input in that block is already taken. Okay, so I make a hot restart here, and let's see if it is working or not. Hope it will work. So I click on 1, it getting cross, so that is working. So as I said before, I want to just win the first player at first to see if it is working or not. So and now it is the second player, so now the circle will become. So as you can see, first player is the winner, that the matching pattern. Okay, now make it reset and just do for the second player. Second player is the winner. Okay, now make the game draw. As you can see, no one is the winner, so it is showing game is draw. So our game is working fine for the first player, for the second player, and it is working fine when the game is draw. So we successfully make our first project in the Flutter series when we learning the mobile app development. I think you enjoyed today's video about making that beautiful app. In the future we will go through many more complex project topics about API calling, authentication, session management, and audio, video, images, and more over the things. So don't worry, we will go through many more complex topics, but I think for first project and beginner level project, that project is very much fun for you, and you can make any kind of small projects in your own to get the confidence on it. Hope you get insight from that project how to make a small or casual games in the Flutter so that you can play at your own. Hope you love this video. If you love this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe this channel because the new videos of that series is coming very soon in this channel. Stay tuned for that. Have a nice day. Bye.